In the world of the ultra elite, a billionaire's greatest asset isn't his bank account. It's his face. It's the brand, the legacy, the power. But what happens when that face is a lie? My name is Aubrey, and for 3 years I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. I was married to Curtis Thorne, the man the media called the Ice King of the tech world. He was a billionaire who could crash a market with a single tweet and rebuild it by lunch. I thought I knew every inch of him, every secret he held. But 3 days ago, the man I call my husband returned from a trip, and the second his hand touched the small of my back, I knew. The skin was too warm. The gaze was too hungry. The man in my penthouse is an imposter, a secret twin named Patrick, who has stepped out of the shadows to reclaim a life that was stolen from him. Now, I'm caught in the middle of a war between two identical kings. If I expose the truth, the Thorne empire collapses and takes me with it. If I stay silent, I'm sleeping with a man who is technically a stranger, but a stranger I'm starting to love more than the husband I actually married. Tonight, I'm revealing the full story, from the hidden basement secrets to the moment I had to choose between a cold legacy and a dangerous passion. This is a story of wealth, betrayal, and a love that was never supposed to exist. Before we dive into the moment I found the ghost scar, make sure you're subscribed. In the world of the billionaire elite, the only thing more dangerous than a secret is the person who discovers it. To understand the deception, you have to understand the man I married. Curtis Thorne didn't become a billionaire by being nice. He was a machine. Our marriage was a merger, a strategic alliance between two powerful families. There was respect, yes. There were expensive gifts and vacations on private islands, but there was never heat. Curtis was a man of habit. He woke up at 5 a.m., drank his coffee black, and never touched me without a reason. Our intimacy was like his business deals, scheduled, efficient, and cold. Then came the accident, or what I thought was an accident. Curtis was supposed to be in Zurich for a week, but he returned 3 days early, claiming his private jet had a mechanical issue. He walked into our penthouse, soaking wet from the rain, and for the first time in 3 years, he didn't head straight to his office. He looked at me. He really looked at me. "Aubrey," he said. Just my name, but the way he said it, low, gravelly, almost like a prayer, sent a shiver through me. That night was different. He didn't want to talk about the merger. He didn't want to look at the stock market. He took my hand, and for the first time, his palm was warm. His touch was heavy. I told myself it was the trauma of the flight, the near-death experience. I told myself my husband was finally waking up. I was so wrong. I was falling for a man that didn't exist in my world. The first crack in the mask appeared 48 hours later. We were at the Thorne International headquarters. This was the Billionaire's Cathedral, a 90-story tower of glass. Curtis was set to sign the Prometheus project, a deal worth $5 billion. I sat next to him, playing the role of the supportive CEO wife. Catherine, our lead investor, and a woman who had known Curtis for a decade, pushed the documents toward him. "Everything is in order, Curtis," Catherine said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Just your signature and we own the sector." I watched him pick up the pen. My heart stopped. The real Curtis Thorne had a signature that looked like a jagged mountain range, sharp, clinical, and impossible to forge because it was so devoid of soul. But as this man signed, I saw a tiny, elegant curl at the end of the last letter, a flourish. It was a sign of a man who enjoyed the act of writing, not a man who saw it as a chore. Then he leaned back, and the sunlight from the floor-to-ceiling windows caught the skin behind his left ear. There it was, a tiny, jagged white scar, a ghost scar. My husband's skin was a canvas of perfection. He spent thousands on dermatologists to ensure he looked like a polished statue. This man had been in a fight. He had a history. I felt the air leave my lungs. I looked around the room. Catherine was staring at him. The board members were nodding. Nobody but me. I was sitting 3 inches away from an imposter who was currently stealing a billionaire fortune in broad daylight. I spent the next 6 hours in a state of quiet hysteria. I couldn't go to the police. Who would believe me? Excuse me, officer. My billionaire husband is too charming and his signature is too pretty. They think I was having a breakdown. I waited until he went for a business dinner, one he insisted on attending alone. I broke into Curtis's private safe. I knew the code. It was our wedding anniversary, or so I thought. It didn't work. I tried his birthday. Nothing. Finally, I tried a sequence of numbers I found in an old childhood photo album Curtis kept hidden. 0909. The safe clicked open. Inside weren't just stocks and bonds. There was a file, a birth certificate from a small clinic in a town I'd never heard of. 2 names were listed, Curtis Thorne and Patrick Thorne. There was a letter, yellowed with age, from their mother. It spoke of a split legacy. One twin was sent to live with their billionaire father to be groomed for the throne. The other, Patrick, was left in the shadows with nothing but a mother who couldn't afford to keep him. Patrick had been erased from history. He was the secret the Thorne family had buried to keep their bloodline pure and focused on power. Suddenly, the accident made sense. Patrick hadn't just appeared, he had moved. But where was the real Curtis? I searched deeper into the safe and found a GPS tracker login. My husband wasn't in Zurich. The tracker showed he was in a private medical facility in the mountains of Vermont. I realized then that Patrick wasn't just an imposter, he was a replacement. That evening was the winter gala. I had to face him. I had to pretend. When I walked into the bedroom, Patrick was standing by the window, looking out at the city he now owned. He was wearing a tuxedo that cost more than a house. "You look beautiful, Aubrey," he said. He didn't look at my jewelry or my dress. He looked at my eyes. "Thank you, Curtis," I said, the name tasting like poison in my mouth. At the gala, the pressure was suffocating. Every billionaire in the city was there, shaking his hand, calling him a genius. I watched him navigate the room. He was better at being Curtis than Curtis was. He was charismatic. He was empathetic. He made the interns feel seen and the investors feel safe. But I saw the cracks. He didn't know which scotch Curtis liked. He didn't know the names of our domestic staff. Later, on the balcony, away from the cameras, I couldn't take it anymore. "How long did you plan this?" I whispered. He froze. The mask didn't slip, but his posture changed. He turned to me, the moonlight catching that silver scar behind his ear. "I don't know what you're talking about, darling," he said, but his voice was dropped to a dangerous low frequency. "The signature, Patrick, the scar, the way you smell like sandalwood instead of the sterile office my husband lives in. I know." He stepped closer, pinning me against the cold stone railing. The scent of him, rain and wood, filled my senses. For a second, I forgot to be afraid. "If you know," he whispered, his face inches from mine, "then you know why I'm here. My brother took everything that was mine before I was old enough to speak. He took my father, my name, and my future. He sat in this tower while I starved. I'm not here to destroy the Thorne legacy, Aubrey. I'm here to fix it. By kidnapping your brother? I hissed. By saving you, he countered. Ask yourself, Aubrey, in 3 years, did Curtis ever look at you the way I am looking right now? Did he ever care if you were happy, or did he just care if you looked good on his arm at the next Billionaire Summit? I wanted to scream that he was wrong, but he wasn't. My marriage had been a cage, and the man holding the bars was now an imposter who made me feel more alive than I ever had before. The final blow came the next morning. A man named David, Curtis's head of security, and a man I'd always found suspicious, pulled me aside in the hallway. "The board is getting restless, Mrs. Thorne," David said, his voice cold. "And I think you've been spending too much time in the private safe. If you want to keep your lifestyle, the cars, the jewels, the Thorne name, you'll stay quiet about Patrick, or you'll end up in the same facility your husband is currently rotting in." That was the moment I realized the truth. Patrick hadn't kidnapped Curtis. The board had. Curtis had become too predictable, too rigid. They wanted a CEO who was a superstar, someone who could sell the dream to the public. They had found the secret twin, kidnapped the real Curtis, and installed Patrick as their puppet. Patrick wasn't the villain. He was a prisoner in a gold-plated cage, just like me. That night, I went to Patrick. He was in the library, surrounded by leather-bound books and bottles of bourbon. "We have to get him out," I said. Patrick looked up, surprised. "You want to save the man who treated you like a piece of furniture?" "No," I said, walking toward him. "I want to take down the people who think they can play with our lives. David, Catherine, the whole board. They think they own the Thorne legacy. Let's show them what a billionaire's wrath really looks like." Patrick stood up, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. "And what happens to us, Aubrey, when the real Curtis comes back?" I looked at the man who's stolen my husband's life and realized I didn't want the original back. I wanted the man who saw me. "We'll cross that bridge when we burn it," I replied. Over the next week, we worked together. We moved billions of dollars into offshore accounts. We gathered evidence of David's embezzlement and Catherine's insider trading. On the night of the annual stockholders meeting, we didn't just sign a merger. We signed an execution order for the board's careers. We exposed the kidnapping. We called the authorities to the facility in Vermont. But there was one final twist. When the police arrived at the facility, the real Curtis Thorne was gone. He had escaped days prior. I stood in the center of the penthouse, the empire at my feet, and Patrick by my side. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "You chose the wrong twin, Aubrey. I'm coming for my throne." The story of the billionaire CEO's secret twin didn't end with a rescue. It ended with a war. Patrick and I are now the heads of Thorne International, but we're looking over our shoulders every single day because somewhere out there, the real Ice King is waiting in the shadows. But I'm not the scared wife I used to be. I have a new king by my side, a fortune to protect, and a love that was born from a lie but became the only truth I have left. If you were me, Would you have stayed with Patrick, or would you have waited for the husband who never truly loved you? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear the story of the Great Thorne War, make sure you've liked this video and shared it with a friend. I'm Aubrey, and in this world, the only thing more dangerous than losing a fortune is finding one.